Hi, my name is Andrea Oliver, and my firm is North Park Financial Planning in Chicago. And my unexpected hobbies are original hot yoga and cold plunging in Lake Michigan.
Welcome to Unexpected Hobbies of Financial Advisors, the podcast where we interview fellow financial advisors about their pursuits and pastimes beyond their professional persona, some of which may be surprising to their colleagues and clients. We're interested in what makes them tick and how their unexpected hobbies might or might not relate to their everyday lives. Here's our discussion with this week's guest. Welcome to the Unexpected Hobbies of Financial Advisors podcast. I'm Brian Wright with Fiduciary CFO, alongside my co-host and fellow financial advisor, Joshua Walker.
I gave up a spot on the Olympic podcasting team to be here this morning.
And we all appreciate it. Thank you, Joshua. Joining us today is Andrea Oliver. She's going to tell us about her unexpected hobbies. Welcome, Andrea. Tell us how in the world you got into your unexpected hobbies.
The yoga I've been doing for 8 years, and I've always been an active person and had to move. I can't sit still very long. I used to run a lot and run marathons. And so I guess people see these as extreme things. So maybe that's part of what I need. This particular hobby, my daughter invited me. I think she was 15 at the time, and she was trying out these hot yoga classes. And it was the day after my 40th birthday. And my daughter invited me. So I was like, I can't say no to her.
You have to go.
But I was like, oh no, hot yoga. I've heard about that. And I had celebrated quite a bit the night before, so I was not feeling great on the way in there. And it was a very crowded class. It's 105 degrees in the room. And yeah, so it was, and it's 90 minutes long. And the teacher I had that day, I come to love him so much, but just very straightforward, saying the postures, no real like empathy or anything around like feeling bad, but not like making you feel stupid or anything like that. But yeah, so I went, made it through, was often nervous I was going to die. Your heart rate gets high up there and sweat pours out of you. And you're like, oh, this is so gross. We're all just creating a lake in this room. But yeah, and I felt so much better afterwards. I was like, wow, the cure for partying too much. So anyway, that was my first experience with it. And then I just started going once a week, really. That was like all I could handle. It was so like I'm a little bit of an anxious person anyway, or I was at that point in my life. So I would go about once a week. I was still running, and that was my kind of.
So was that your daughter's first time, or was she a seasoned veteran?
No, she had just been going a few times with one of her friends, and her mom is actually a friend too. So that all of us were in that class, and she since does not go very much, but she's now just graduated college, but she still will go with me and my husband if she.
And what was the age blend? There was teenagers in the room, and how high up the age spectrum did it go?
My
Were you in the
gosh.
middle, or were you bringing up the average by far?
In the middle, really, there's rarely actually teenagers. I think they find it very hard to, but there are, what I love about it, there's people of all shapes and sizes, all ages. Right now, there's a couple of good friends I have in there that are 75, 70. And they have great stories too, how yoga's helped them.
The word that you used is the same word that I associate with the practice, which is gross, and just sweaty and gross. And so after even my wife got into yoga 10 years ago, and I tried to do a bit with her, but she was over on her mat looking graceful and beautiful, and I over on my mat sweating like a pig, and I'm fit, I run, but just gross. And that was in an air-conditioned room. So what is it? How many people and how much square foot, and tell us, how disgusting is it really?
Yeah, it's pretty disgusting, but now it doesn't faze me at all. And then sometimes there's smells that you're like, oh, wow, that's going to be really hard to do in this class. But either you just forget about it or you get used to it. I don't know. It depends on the day too. Right now, you just sweat because it's humid outside. We're in the Midwest, so it's just a mess.
So is this something that you do to wind down, or is this something you do that like gets you amped up like for the next week?
That's complicated. I just, like I said, I have to move to feel like a normal, like myself. So it's like I guess it's catharsis in a way, but it just helps me feel cleansed and clear in my mind. So yeah,
And
it's
this is
a
something you
little
have to
bit of a
go
drive.
to a place to do, right? You don't have a little attic studio where you can crank it up to 105 up in the belfry and sweat like crazy. This is a destination event.
Yeah, go to a place. But during COVID, that was hard on everyone. Our studio owner quickly got us all into Zoom sessions and the ability to like, so there were all these little squares of people and we do it at home. And obviously it couldn't get it as hot. Some people would get a bunch of space heaters and all of that, but you can do it without the heat for sure. And it's a very pleasant way to.
So are there varying degrees of degrees? I mean, 105 seems very specific. Is there a reason it's not 106? Or are there other studios you graduate to the 110 and the 120 studios?
Yeah, no,
Like
I don't
peppers,
know.
medium, mild, hot.
Yeah, like peppers. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I just heard it's 105. There's another studio in Chicago called 105F. That's their name. And I've been there. They keep it at 105 strictly. Our studio owner, I feel like it's 105, but they'll open the doors if they see everyone's totally just losing all their bodily fluids. That's gross. I shouldn't have said that. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why it's 105. It used to be called, it still is referred to as Bikram yoga, but that person doesn't have the best legacy, so they're changing it to original hot yoga. So anyway, there's a Netflix special on Bikram if
Ooh.
anyone wants to check that out. But don't, because then that'll ruin your idea of what it is.
And
Anyway.
the crazy people who live in the southwest of our country say, "Oh, it's a dry heat." So when you're talking 105, is it 105 in humid, or are they cranking
Yeah.
dehumidifiers as well, or just all those sweaty bodies? It's going to be humid no matter what.
They actually have a humidifier on, except it's not on these past few weeks because of how humid it is already. Yeah.
And what do you
The
do?
heat and the humidity helps with the flexibility and helps you go a little deeper into the postures.
Tricks your muscles into being more flexible. Sure.
Yeah,
So
for
what do you do
sure.
about the mats? Is it you bring your own, or do they have them there and they have their own cleansing regimen? How does that work with the hardware of the hobby?
Yeah, I mean, I bring my own. You can rent mats and towels at our studio. Some studios don't rent them. I just bring my own. I have towels. We have yoga clothes. We're doing laundry every night. My husband goes a lot now too. He's taking it pretty seriously. So we're always doing yoga laundry. It never quite gets the stink out. We're trying to figure out, should we soak it in vinegar, but we just never get around to it. But yeah, a
And
lot of people spray their
specialized clothing?
mats. Yeah, barely. You don't wear much. So yeah,
So it's
and
not
I
like
learned
wrestlers
that.
trying to make weight where you're wrapping yourselves in plastic bags to boost the
Right.
sweating. Okay.
No, some people, you're like, oh gosh, how could you be wearing that much? So I don't know. Some people, everyone has different preferences. Most people are just men, just wear a pair of shorts and nothing else. And then I just, sports bra and the yoga shorts.
So what's the makeup of the studio between male and female?
I would say it's probably leans a little more female, but there are a lot of males at my studio. Yeah, I would say it depends on the time of day too sometimes, but I would say 60-40 female to male.
And these studios are businesses, so I'm guessing there's administrative offices, people that work there. They have to have climate controlled zones so that the office drones can have it 58 and dry the way it's supposed to be at a workplace.
Yeah, no, actually the studio, we're in a temporary space right now for the past 9 months. While the studio owners, she's bought an actual commercial condo to have her own space and not have to deal with the leases anymore. She's a client, so I went through that with her. But yeah, no, it's really just a small space with the front desk and a back room, and the next place will be like, so it's not, yeah, there in the old space we got to have air conditioning in the locker rooms, but then it's a whole thing, the HVAC that you need, it's specialized because it's hard to keep it, yeah, the zones like you're saying, but I don't know too much about, I just know that the HVAC people are in there a lot more probably
Don't ask questions, don't want to
than
know.
typical. Yeah.
And so then you're our first guest that has either sort of an A-B dual hobby kind of thing. How does the lake plunge aspect fit into this? Is it related or independent, or how does that work?
And which did you
But
do first? I need to know.
The yoga definitely came first. It's funny because I didn't even really think about how they're related, you guys, until I was invited to this podcast. But like last summer, I think I was in class, and just the lake is not far away from us, and I bike to class and stuff like that. And my kids, I have four kids of varying ages. Like the youngest is 16, so they're older, and they often go to this place at Lake Michigan called the Ledges, and I'm always like, what is? I know what they're talking about, but it just seems so. It's a place where a lot of people go hang out, or you can just jump right in the water from the concrete instead of getting all sandy at the beach. I went down there after yoga, I don't know, one time last summer and jumped in and was like, oh my gosh, this is great. But it was summer, so the water it felt great, but it was super cold. And then some friends and I don't know, we would go down and jump in. And then we were like, we don't want this to end. And so it was like September. And then we're like, let's see if we can make it to the end of October. And we go twice a week, early mornings. And they were like, oh. And then we'd meet other people that were going in that we knew were going in all year round. There's actually one guy called the Great Lake Jumper who, since COVID, has gone in every single day to the lake, no matter what. Sometimes he shovels like snow and ice off the path, and he flips in, and he's a musician, and he's always dedicating his jump to some famous artist or album. And he has a little, today my jump is dedicated to, and then he puts it down and he runs and he does a flip into the water every day since COVID. He's done it. So no matter where, if he's somewhere else, he does it in a different body of water. But so
Yeah,
we
in
met
the last
him.
year or two, there were photos that we saw from Chicago of Lake Michigan just not frozen over, but frozen over with jagged ice.
Yeah.
It looks
He,
dangerous, but so he chips away at it to make a little
yes.
space enough to get in.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And WGN has covered him lots of times, but he's in the same place. So we met him one day and we're like, oh, that's that guy. Okay. Okay. And just saw that other people did it. And we're like, okay, maybe we can keep doing it. Yeah. So all winter long, we went in twice a week. And
What was the coldest water? What do you,
I
do you have
mean,
a
it was
sense for
pretty.
how cold? Do you know numerical
32,
number of
Brian.
the
It's
actual?
32.
Well, at least, right?
Yeah, I mean 32. Really, it was 32 because it was a pretty mild winter, so it didn't actually freeze over. Except there was maybe 1 week where I was out of town, which worked out. But yeah, 32. Yeah, we would at that point when it was like 40s and below, we were just taking the ladder down, and we had hats on, and you have to wear like neoprene gloves and booties so your fingers don't freeze. And then when you get out, you have to change immediately. So we were
Promptly.
like change without people seeing us there and get all warm because you start to not to be able to feel your fingers until
Huh.
you warm up your core. Yeah.
All
But
right.
yeah, it's just, it made us so happy and so alert for the day most days. And
Can intend to make this a lifelong habit, or how do you envision this going as you move from one decade to the next? 'Cause I know you said yoga you can do
yeah,
indefinitely as long as you can balance,
yeah.
but the plunging as well?
We'll see. We're in the summer. Oh, this is so easy. Oh, it's so scary to think about doing it again. I think as long as my two buddies want to do it, we'll try to keep it up. It takes
And do we
time.
understand, did I hear right, that there's a connection between the hot yoga practice and the founding and an establishment of your financial planning firm? Is that right?
Yeah. I mean,
How did that
yeah.
come to be?
I mean, I got right out of college. I worked for an RIA as an intern, and that was in 97, 98 through 2001. I mean, I was an intern the whole time. I worked
Wow.
there. I got my CFP while I worked there, but I also had my first child. When we started very young, I had my first child when I was 22. So this was unheard of at the time, but the person I worked for actually gave me paid maternity leave.
Whoa.
That was in 1998. As long as I came back and worked at least 20 hours a week. I just like credit that I learned a lot working, and it was an RIA at that time, fee only. It was just new and
Baby. Yeah.
yeah.
Sure.
So I was working there, and then I got pregnant with my daughter. So I just my dad was like helping us with childcare and stuff, and my husband was getting his like he was finishing college, but he's a software developer. So anyway, we were just out how to have this family and support ourselves. But I had always thought I would stay home with my kids. So we got to the point when my daughter was about to be born and the firm was moving to Schaumburg. It was going to be like a really far commute at that time. So I decided to stop and stay home. And then that was 2001. I took my CFP exam, I don't know, right before my daughter was born. And then 9/11 happened, and I remember getting my letter in the mail that I had passed like that same day or something. It was like a whirlwind of events happening. Anyway, so I was home, and then we had two more kids. We have four kids. I was home for 15 years with my CFP that I'd barely I was keeping up the continuing education, but I had barely done much with. And we homeschooled for a while. I don't know. It's a long story. Anyway, I was just home as a mom, and sometimes being a mom is not super rewarding because no one tells you, good job, mom. Thank you so much. But anyway, I enjoyed it for a long time. But then I was just getting close to 40, the midlife thing. And I was just starting to feel like I need to work. And everyone has to go to college. It wasn't enough income
I'm
to
doing right. If your youngest is
yeah.
now 16 and they about that time into elementary school, and so somewhat
Mhm.
of a lessened shifting burden of motherhood, it
Yeah.
looks different. And so
Yeah.
had a time to think about what next.
Yeah. So I was listening to Michael Kitz's podcast. And because I had my CFP, I had friends that would be like, can you help me with this? Can you help me with this? I was a church treasurer. I worked part-time at the health club down the street. I was like a budget supervisor. So I was like in it and helping people still. And then my therapist was like, "Who- can you help people? They're always in here arguing about money. Are you going to get started?" I'm like, not yet. Anyway, I was listening to the Financial Advisor Success podcast, I don't know, every day, and being like, oh, wow, this is so great. It seemed like it had changed so much from when I was working in the 90s. It was so investment focused because it had to be just so much work around quarterly reports and all of that. Even though we did a lot of financial planning, I just was so young. I was just more like a junior. I'm just watching at that point. Anyway, Michael Kitces, I learned about XY. And then I think, yeah, ended up putting the kids in school because they were homeschooled, and that was a whole process. But so I decided, yeah. So anyway, getting back to yoga, I had been going probably 2 years at that point. But what I think yoga does is, for me, I feel like it's forced meditation. I don't, it's very hard for me to sit down and meditate. I've learned a lot about it now. I could do it, but you're in there, you're so hot, you're a little bit like, I think I might die. You're not going to die. So there's a lot of talking to yourself, calming yourself down. The teachers talk about the breathing constantly. You only breathe through your nose during class if possible, because that's a much more calm breath. It's not the fight or flight thing. So you're just like, over time, you're actually changing, I feel, the pathways in your brain. And so I just became a little less anxious, a little less fearful. I'd been thinking about starting this practice, but I was like, that's crazy. You have not worked for 15 years. You don't even know, you have no idea what you're doing. But I didn't want to get dressed up and take the train downtown every day and be gone for 12 hours because I know I'd take everything very seriously. I just would have not been home at all because I would have been trying to prove myself. So anyway, I decided to start because of XY. I don't know if XY Planning Network. Yeah, they help you get registered. So I joined them at the very end of 2017. I think I was like member 600 something. Got in the launcher group. It got registered. I had told myself I'll give it 2 years, and if it's not going well, then I'll go get a job. Yeah, I went through that process. But yoga, I just think really I felt myself changing and being like less fearful, even though like when I look back at starting my firm, I felt like I was going to throw up most days. Any prospect call, any meeting, I was like so nervous, but the yoga helps with that anyway, and it continues to. Yeah, it's
Can you extend that state of mind to clients when they're experiencing the alternating Fear and greed, fear and greed. Is that contagious in a sense that, hey, now, Mr. and Mrs. Client, breathe through your nose, markets do this, or, or is that
Yeah, I
not
mean, a
something
little
that
bit
works
for
across the
sure.
conference desk?
I think at least I'm able to sit with those conversations pretty well, I think. And I think that's from learning from yoga and other things. It's not solely yoga, but I'm already a pretty empathetic person. People feel like they can talk to me. But yeah, I mean, I do feel like I might not have known how to handle those situations. And I sit and I understand that it's not me that they're reacting to. They're having a hard time. I don't know. I think, yeah, it just slow me down. Conversation.
You mentioned that the studio owner was a client, and if we need to cut that out because you're not supposed to say that, we can. But has there been crossover that people you've become friends with in class learn what you do and have been interested in working with you professionally? Or alternatively, have there been clients that ask, hey, why are you so chill all the time? And you've been able to, hey, well, come down where it's 105 and let me show you.
Yeah, she became a client like just a couple years ago, and I've been going there for 8 years. So it's just had a need, and I think I don't ever go to class and trying to find clients. It's really just more, but it's such a nice community that I have. Actually, I have a friend that does it. That's also a client. I can't remember. The friendship came first, but yeah, people ask after a while. It's just, oh, what do you do? And yeah, definitely either referrals from people in there or answering questions. And now, like I set up the simple IRA for the studio, so other teachers that aren't really clients, but I can't help them invest it without talking through it with them. So,
And
and Sue,
are,
go
are
ahead.
you a one-person shop, or do you have colleagues that are interested in the
I'm a one
practice?
person shop
Okay.
right now, but Jackie, who nominated me for this, she actually started doing yoga with me. Or we went to XY conference in Atlanta, and I found a studio there to go, and she came with me. And now she's a convert, like she loves it too. And then we're actually partnering at the end of this year. We're gonna join our firms, and
Nice.
yeah,
Congratulations.
yeah,
So when you go to
yeah,
a
it's
different city,
exciting.
do you seek out a studio? Because Brian here is into pinball, and he goes on, what's the name of
Yeah.
that crazy website that you guys have?
Pinside. I go to Pinside to find a map. There's
Oh
a
my
map there that
gosh,
shows all
that
the places for
exists.
pinball.
Of
That's a
course it
thing. Yeah,
does.
I'm sure it exists probably for yoga
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. I do often. We went to Spain to visit my kid who was there. And sometimes this is my break from yoga when I'm somewhere, but it just depends how long you're there and how long and I can practice on my own. But yeah, definitely we seek out other studios sometimes. And it's sometimes they are way hotter than ours. And it's, oh my gosh,
This is 105
this is
Celsius.
death.
And if you're on vacation, eating vacation food and drinking vacation drinks, then maybe you need that
Yes. Yeah.
cleansing morning
Yeah.
after.
For
Yeah.
sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. Of the four of them, it sounds like if I'm doing the math right, the oldest got you into it. Did she drag any of her siblings along as well, or has that been your job to get them into it?
She's actually the second. My oldest is 26. He lives here in Chicago, so he does come sometimes. He likes it. He's very active himself. He started parkour like when he was, and I was like, what is that? So I guess we have some strange stuff going on, but
Next year, we'll have you back talking about parkour and plunging.
so he comes when he can. He's very busy and he has a band that he plays out a lot. But he comes, and then our daughter lives in Denver, so sometimes she'll go if we're visiting. She'll go with us. But the next two, no way. Like my 19-year-old is not doing that. 16-year-old, I'm not doing that. I think we're crazy.
And plunging into the Platte River is not the same as plunging into Lake Michigan. That
But no way,
all
not at
18
all.
inches of it. Okay, we've
Yeah.
got some good content. If somebody was thinking that this sounds interesting, I'd like to also be disgusting and gross and flexible, and where would they go to learn more about this as a hobby without it getting into the commitment of the laundry routine that you've described?
I say they could look up original hot yoga or 26 and 2, Bikram yoga. There's a lot on Google about all the benefits of it and what it is. You can watch videos before you go if you're nervous. Yeah, look up studios that have that.
What was the second one? 26 and 2?
26 and 2. Yeah, I should explain that. The 90-minute, the original hot yoga class it's a series of 26 postures, and you do each of them twice with a little break in between. And that might sound, it's the same. It's the same every
Okay.
time. And I now
Just like a
I
deck of cards
can,
then, the reds and the blacks.
yeah. And I connect that with like I used to love running so much, and I still do. I just can't as
But
far.
yeah, like, no, it's not 26
It's
and 2,
like,
it's 26.2, ma'am.
oh, that's so funny. You're right. I never thought of that. But like it's just like the repetitiveness where you can, get it, I think, because you know what's coming. I'm a pretty slow processor, so ball sports are not my thing because I just don't have the coordination to quickly get it from hitting me and keep it from hitting me in the head. But yeah, the 26 and 2 that's another, it's called that.
Okay. Well, at first you said 26 and 2, and I also thought 26 and 6, and I thought, no, this is not a political show. None of that, please. And then
I have a question. Is the community really welcoming and fun? Is there a lot of engagement, or is that actually what you don't want because you want everybody with blinders? And is it actually more appealing that no one's going to talk to you? You should come out and do this. A lot of hobbies. It's very welcoming, and it's almost like a Bible study where like they want the new people. Hey, come on in, and they make you feel really welcome. But I almost wonder if that might be a turnoff. So tell us what's the
Yeah,
hot
I mean,
yoga community like?
I think it could be either. I think there are other studios I've been to where it feels more like people just come and they go and they get their fix. But it could be that I'm just visiting too, so I don't really know. Our studio feels very much like church. Actually, we're part of a church for a very long time that closed a couple years ago, and I feel fine saying this. It actually feels like a nice kind of replacement, but the people are very nice, kind, loving. There's a lot of people that help each other out, encouraging. Our studio owner, I would give her the credit for making sure that everyone feels welcome and safe. And I don't know, it's just, yeah. And a lot of people, we've become friends. We do like some things outside of yoga together.
and if you could address your younger self 40 years and one day getting into this, what words of wisdom would you have, or what words of warning, or hey, watch out for this down the road, would you want to impart to your younger self?
I don't know. Just when I think about like encouraging other new students that I see and you hear them in the locker room being like, oh my gosh, I just try to like just encourage them to come back. That repetition over time is stuff that the teachers say that a lot in class. But I know now that when I was hearing the words coming out of their mouth at the beginning, they did not have the same meaning as they do now. And you just like, oh, I don't know, just encouragement. I don't know if there's any words of warning, really. I don't think I've ever regretted this or, yeah.
So what hot yoga was, and I also know what goat yoga is. Do those ever combine? You ever do hot yoga with goats? 105 degrees with goats.
They're covered in fur. That would be most unkind.
The
Yeah.
smell, right?
They already smell like goats.
So I assume that's a
Yeah.
no, right? Hard no.
It's a no. Hopefully you'll get a guest on that likes goat yoga. I have no, I just heard about it. I have no desire to try that out, but
Oh,
I think it's an outdoor thing too.
Oh, I don't think so. I don't think so.
I mean,
No.
I
Yeah, we need to find.
don't know,
There's
they
an
like,
advisor out there. Andrea,
there's gotta be.
has
There's
it's in
gotta
goat
be.
yoga. We'll
Paging
find him.
goat yoga advisors. Yeah. If you want to return to the favor to your new partner who nominated you, and if she's got some sort of oddball thing that she does, then we'd be delighted to have her on as well.
Okay.
Where should people go to find out more about you and your professional practice and the changes that are coming for your firm?
I guess northparkfinancialplanning.com, and that's my website. And none of the changes are yet up there, but we've been talking to her. I don't have time for a lot of the marketing or self promotion, which I mean in the best way. Like you're supposed to do that, but yeah. So
We're grateful that you took the time, your precious time that you do have to
oh my
talk
gosh,
to
thank
us
you.
about this crazy hobby of yours. We're very grateful for your time today.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on today. This has been really interesting.
Oh my gosh, thank you. I'm so glad you guys are doing this. What a fun way to financial advisors, a different kind of reputation.
That's right. Yeah, we joke that you say there's so many advisors out there. Like everybody, oh, you need to be different. It's everybody's different. Like we're all different by
Yeah,
default. Like you want to stand out,
totally.
don't be different. Be unexpected. This is unexpected. So this is our
I
gift
like
to the
that.
industry to show the unexpected sides of financial advisors. So
And an encouragement to people to find hobbies, because so many people, we think,
Yeah.
oh, they're friends of ours, they're advisors. They don't do anything interesting or unexpected. They have no hobbies. They raise their family, they go to church, they work spreadsheets,
Yeah,
which is fine, but hobbies, please.
I think
Yes.
everyone has some. Yeah, for sure.
All right. Thanks, Andrea. We
Okay.
appreciate it. Unexpected Hobbies of Financial Advisors is brought to you by Fiduciary CFO, forward-thinking tax and planning solutions for business owners, like RIA firms and their business owner clientele. The opinions of Brian, Joshua, and their guests are for entertainment purposes and should not be construed as legal, tax, financial, or investment advice. You should know better than to take any of this content seriously. Thanks for being a fan of the show. If you were listening and thought to yourself, hey, I know somebody they need to have on the show, you can do something about that. Go to unexpectedhobbies.com/nominate and tell us who they are and what they do that's so interesting and unexpected. If we agree, we'll send them an invitation and we'll hope they say yes. Now it's unexpectedhobbies.com/nominate.